What's up, knuckleheads? Never done it here with Kid and Company. And in this episode, I'm going to start the first car of a 4-car series because y'all know how I like groups of 4. And instead of F1, we're going with Group C this time, which I'm super excited about because anyone knows what Group C cars are. They've got some really fine lines. They look aggressive and they perform aggressive. And I'm happy and excited to kick that 4-car series off with probably my favorite of the 4, which is a 1989 Sauber-Mercedes C9. So if that sounds as exciting to you as it obviously does to these guys, you might want to stick around. Alright, Group C cars. What was Group C? Group C was essentially a racing series that basically spanned the decade that was the 80s into the early 90s. Characterized by some really beautiful cars, obviously. And I'm starting, like I said, with the 1989 Sauber-Mercedes, which is probably my favorite of the 4 cars I'm going to do. But there's one thing that all 4 cars have in common that was important to me, and I wanted them all to be 24 Hours of Le Mans champions. And the other thing I'm happy about, they're all going to be Tamiya kits. And by now you all know how highly I think of Tamiya. So let's take a quick look and see what we got going on here. Right off the bat, beautiful moldings. And the car is already in silver, so I'll have to make a call on it. I may not prime and paint it silver since it's already silver, which if I went that route, it would be because I could avoid the chipping and scratching that occurs when you run these things as slot cars, but I'll have to make that call. Everything else in here looks amazing. It's a Tamiya kit. Details are amazing. Now, I am happy to say I'm going to try not to destroy or toss away, I should say, the chassis that came with the kit. If I can get away with it and just use the body like you would on a slot car, sitting on a slot car chassis, I'm going to try to. I've tossed away so many parts because I couldn't use them. I'll see what happens with this. Now there are some interesting challenges I'm going to have with these C9 cars that I did not have with the Formula 1 cars. And one thing I've noticed right out the gate is the very wide track of these cars. Very wide. I mean, it makes sense. But with my tried and true H&R Racing HRCH 12 chassis that I've been using for all the other builds, the bodies on these cars are a lot wider. So what I've done to get around that, I went ahead and ordered some aftermarket 1/8 inch outer diameter stainless steel shafts that I'm going to cut down as needed to replace the 2 shorter ones that came with the chassis. Because I'm going to need to bring these out wider on the back and the front both. And I've also, as a result of that, I've ordered some aftermarket axle spacers because I'm going to have to take up the slack between the body and the wheels. The other thing I noticed right out the gate is these tires that come with the kit. The rears are a greater width and diameter from the front wheels. Kind of like those F1 cars from the 70s that I was building. Now, I could just leave these rears on and roll with it, but at the end of the day, that's going to drive me nuts, because what would happen if I did that is on this rear fender back here, you'd see a gap between the top of the tire and the bottom of the fender, and it would really ruin the aesthetic, I think. So what I've done, I don't know how I got this lucky, and we'll see just how lucky I got. I was able to find some 30mm by 16mm aftermarket wheels and tires for this build. And believe it or not, that's exactly what the tires from the kit are. They're 30mm high and 16mm wide. Now, the crazy thing is these aftermarket wheels and tires are actually manufactured by the same H&R racing company. I wasn't able to find these on their website. I had to go through another vendor, so I'm thinking they may not even make these anymore. So what I did, I went ahead and snapped up 4 sets just in case I need them for the other 3 cars. And one thing that I have no experience with, this is going to be the first time, these tires are foam. I've only ever run rubber or urethane tires, so it's going to be a different experience. I have run foam tires before, but they were on radio-controlled F1 cars. So I'm really anxious and looking forward to see how they react to that Carrera plastic track. Because these are Le Mans cars, they run at night, obviously, 24 hours. So I'm not only going to install the tried and true MPL chip that I've been using for all these builds, I'm going to be putting in headlights and taillights, LEDs. So if this all comes together, I can only imagine how spectacular this car and the other 3 are going to look rolling around our Carrera Digital 124 layout. Super excited about it, looking forward to the journey, and we're going to do it together, right? So stick around and we'll see what happens. Alright, so this C9 car is a little bit different from any other custom build I've done. First of all, I had to sink the chassis into the body to get it low enough to sit to really emulate the real thing. And to do that, I had to cut the rails off like you saw in the video. The other cool thing that I haven't done before that actually turned out really cool is the headlights. A lot of your modern digital cars that you might purchase from Carrera or anywhere else, they have the, they all have LEDs, but they have they emulate like xenon LEDs, the obnoxious bright ones, like you would see on the road in real life. So what I opted to try, and it worked out great, I think, is for each lamp, I have 2 lights, just like the real thing, but instead of just putting the typical LED xenon lights, I went with a warm light LED. So hopefully that's going to pay off and you'll appreciate it. Other than that, the other big thing I did, which was different, I've got foam rears instead of the typical urethane rears that I use. So I'm real excited to see how they stick to the track. But I've run the chassis around the track a few times, and one thing I've noticed about the foam tires, which I've used in radio control but never in a slot car, is if the track is clean, and I have a plastic track obviously, these things hook up. They cling to the track like death if it's clean. I'm thinking urethane tires, which I run on just about everything else I got aftermarket. I think of them now as like an all-weather tire. But these guys, these foam tires, when the track's clean, they stick like glue to the track. So anyway, some things I've done differently, and I'm really excited about this. Remember, this is the first of 4. So let's see what happens. Alright, knuckleheads, hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Had a few challenges like I normally do when I do the first car in any series of cars. The first one is it's kind of where I figure out what I'm going to have to do, and then I apply those lessons to the next few cars I do. Of course, as you know, I like groups of 4, and this is the first of 4 Group C cars I'm going to be building. I'm going to be doing the Mazda 787B, the Jaguar XJR9, and of course the iconic Porsche 956, all champions at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So, hope you enjoyed the episode, and until next time, keep living that big kid lifestyle.